Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're chatting all things Leeds United with the Athletics Leeds United correspondent. It is Nancy Froston. Nancy, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm Stephen Browne. And please, if you're watching us along on Twitter, please do retweet the video, get your likes in, shares, and also subscribe to the channel if you're watching along on YouTube as well. Nancy, so much to get through, to be perfectly honest. It must have been an absolutely crazy few days for yourself. We've got to start right where it began on Saturday tea time, coming through about Archie Gray. I've got to say, as a Leeds fan, I'm absolutely devastated that he's gone. I think when the news first broke, you thought, Brentford, what is going on here? And then obviously it's a story that just kind of took over. I mean, from the inside, what from your perspective, how was that entire kind of couple of days? It must have just been absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was. It's the type of sort of transfer saga that probably seems to only happen to Leeds, but also just the way it played out. Like it was going, one way, then the other, then it was on, it was off with various people. I was away, so I was trying to do all this or like stay as in the loop as I could. It always happens when you're away, typically. Yeah. But obviously it was the PSR deadline, I think, that caused some of the problems. So it was chaotic, and you're getting bits of conflicting information from various clubs and everything. So it's always a bit of a balancing act. But we've got a good team with that could help out as well at the Athletics. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Sunday morning, then it was the first thing I read when I kind of opened my eyes, because I was like straight away scrolling, trying to find out what was happening, expecting him to be holding a Brentford shirt or something. And it was like, no, Brentford deal's off. Leeds have rejected that bid. And I thought, oh, great, he's going to stay. And then about 5 minutes later, it was like, oh, Spurs are kind of steaming in, and that kind of gathered pace. And obviously it took a couple more days for it all to confirm. I mean, your article, it's a kind of brilliant dive into exactly what happened and how it came about. But I mean, Tottenham's kind of interest, I'm guessing he's definitely fits their criteria for the type of player they're after. I saw the Athletics podcast you were on with Jay, and obviously Spurs have got a kind of model, haven't they? And Archie Gray definitely fits into that. But was it kind of Brentford's interest that kind of triggered them? They thought, right, we need to get involved here.
I think it always gets to a point in the window where, if a club hears about someone else being serious, suddenly they're on the phone, aren't they? And it's getting more urgent. But I think obviously the deadline probably had a part to play in terms of the PSR and getting everything through. But yeah, it was always, the Spurs' interest was always there. Even at the point where he was down having his medical at Brentford, that didn't waver as such. I think it was probably just a case of them getting the right offer in or having the right conversations with Leeds. So yeah, and they're a strong bidder, I suppose, in terms of what they could offer Leeds, and it's worked out quite well. But also, the setup they've got, the things they could offer him, and I think it probably, and I said this on the Athletic podcast, but probably sits better with Leeds fans. It definitely looks better for him to go to Spurs as opposed to Brentford, and that's not, not speaking down of Brentford, but I think it would be a bit of a kick in the teeth, wouldn't it, for him to have gone there? So.
Yeah, definitely. Do we know kind of what the final figure is then? Because obviously there's been lots of rumours. I know from kind of Spurs were kind of putting it out more, 25 to 30 million. Leeds are saying, no, it's 40 million. And we've then signed another player for 10 million. I mean, do we know kind of the inner workings of what the actual fee is? Or is it anything basically from that range? And obviously we've bought a player as well.
Well, I'm inclined to believe... the numbers, basically, if you do the maths, they work out the same whether you believe the way the Spurs say it or the way that Leeds say it. But so I think, as I understand it, the figure is 40, or once you've factored in the add-ons, it's kind of around 40. And yeah, 10, around 10 for Joe Rodon. So that works out quite nicely because you can spread that 10 million over his 4-year contract and all those weird accounting rules that kind of come into play. So 40 and 10, which obviously, if you take it away, comes to about 30, which is what Spurs are saying. So
yeah, that's it, isn't it? Because I guess it's kind of works on PSR for both, doesn't it? It looks like we've recouped 40 and they've got 10, and it kind of benefits us both. And just kind of one thing that's obviously kind of I mean, with Archie Gray, it was always going to have an extra dimension to it with him being part of this family dynasty at Leeds. And one of the, I guess, the uncomfortable aspects to it is, and you reference it in your article, is that they weren't really pushing for a move. Archie certainly wasn't someone who was going to want to leave Leeds. And with this deadline, kind of the club have had to kind of, move things along. Is there any kind of, has this strained the relationship between the Greys and kind of Leeds, do you think? Or is it just kind of one of those things? I mean, obviously, there was a release clause in the contract. I guess that was negotiated by both sides. So there was always a feeling that this could happen, especially with not getting promoted. But is there any concerns about any kind of, not fallout, but a kind of a more strained relationship between the Greys and Leeds going forward?
I think there are definitely probably ways in which they felt it could have been handled better. Like, that's a really high pressure situation for an 18-year-old to be in.
Yeah.
And that's true of any transfer saga that rumbles on like this. But for a young lad to be ferried from West London to North London, and that's the literal practicalities of it. It's not like he's sat in Leeds doing all these things. The family will have been going around with him. It's a lot, and so I can imagine it probably doesn't make things ideal to be in that situation and with such a kind of ticking clock on it. But the point was that you've made there is that the clause was there to be triggered, and so that's something that Archie will have signed up to, that his agent and probably his family will have been in those discussions as well. As far as I understand, that wasn't something that Leeds necessarily pushed to put in there, so it might be something that they've asked for, but and that's that's the right, you kind of, as a career move, hopefully it will turn out to be a good one for him. So yeah, I think with a bit more time down the road, like, it will all be fine. But in those situations where it probably could have played out in like a more calm and measured way that would have made everyone feel a bit less stressed.
Do you think there was a bit of panic at Leeds going on about this deadline approaching, the fact that maybe the right bid hadn't come in for a Somerville that they were perhaps expecting? I mean, it's amazing. All these offers seem to have come in for like Rutter and stuff after we've sold the crown jewel. But do you think they were kind of, because obviously it's gone right up to the deadline when this has gone through? I mean, were they expecting maybe more offers for more players before that and hoping that they could avoid selling Archie?
I think they were always in a strong position, and they knew that they had 3-4 that it could have been. And I think like the Red Bull deal helped a lot over the summer in terms of the PSR deadline. And selling Archie for this fee means that they're in a great place now, basically. But yeah, I mean, when you get to a point where you're entering the final 2 days and nothing serious has come in, and Leeds can't force someone to put in a serious offer for someone like Somerville or Rutter. No. So it's hard to say. I don't think, I think they'd really like to have kept hold of everyone, but that's not always the way. So yeah, it's kind of, then you go with the most viable thing, and sadly that was Archie, and it was, I reckon, probably the player they wanted to sell the least. But there's a lot of people that have to agree to a move, and I think players will have quite high ambitions, particularly those that are being talked about a lot in the transfer window. So if an offer's come in from a club that they don't particularly fancy going to, even if Leeds felt it was right, that could be the thing that puts the brakes on, basically. So, I think it's just a case of that was the one that actually had legs to be done, and like with quite a heavy heart. I don't think Leeds really wanted to do it, but kind of that's the way that modern football is, and it's sad.
Yeah. I mean, it is really, isn't it, when you're talking about an academy product, and it's kind of more than that. I mean, Leeds, for the last 20 years have sold great academy products. Lennon, Cook, Byram, the first time. We've always seemingly lost our academy products because of the position we're in, and I guess with Archie it's even worse because of that Gray name, and it's kind of a bit of a sad indictment on modern football, isn't it? And these kind of PSR rules, and the fact that we're seeing it all over the place in the Premier League. Players having to let academy gems go. I mean, how have we got to this place where that's what it's come down to kind of satisfy rules that I mean, a club like Leeds, we're not a poor club. You know, we don't necessarily even need to sell players, you know, to function. It's just these rules that we've got to abide by. But it's sad when then you're having to let, you know, the jewel of the crown go, really.
Yeah, it feels a bit like the rules are almost there for the big clubs, because it's not such a big thing for Chelsea to sell 3 or 4 of their academy players, where the emotional attachment isn't as deep as what Leeds will feel towards Archie Gray, or anyone else really, Charlie Cresswell or someone like that. But maybe Archie is stronger again because of the family connection. So it's pretty demoralising when you kind of get bogged down in it. But hopefully, look, it proves to be the right move for him, the right move for the club, and yeah, it works out well.
Yeah, and we've obviously still got a Gray on the books as well. We've still got Harry as well, who's there, and obviously I think he's about 15 now. Obviously, a massive prospect as well. So who knows? We might still see a Gray wearing a Leeds shirt in the future.
That's it. Yeah. I saw Eddie's been involved in some capacity since 1965. So got to keep that going all the way through.
Yeah,
it'd be good.
I wonder if there's any more at, like, you know, who are about 8 or something. I wonder if there's any cousins are going around. I'm sure there's. I think there might even be a run in there somewhere, but we'll see. Yeah. Kind of the forgotten part of all this, Nancy, is the fact that Leeds have found now that they've got a very, very good centre back who was excellent last season, who I think a lot of us probably thought he was going to be out of Leeds' price range, and seemingly has turned down Premier League moves to come back to Ellen Road. I mean, that's kind of forgotten, isn't it? That's a forgotten part of this story. But actually, that's a massive coup for Leeds that they've got Joe Rodon back at the club and permanently.
Yeah, this is it. I think this would be way more celebrated than it has been if it wasn't for the Archie stuff. And I know that Leeds fans are generally really happy with it, but it's just like sort of tinged with that sadness, isn't it? And this was part of the way the deal played out. Like, as I understand it, Joe is on holiday in America, and so trying to get him to do paperwork and stuff, and he's not awake and all those things. But no, he's chosen to come back to Leeds. That's absolutely the case. That he could have gone to, I think it was Ipswich, it was Southampton, although that sort of cooled a little bit, and was it Leicester or someone else? And they will have been able to offer more money. That's not rocket science to work out. But no, look, it counts for a lot, I think, for him to have had a really good settled season with Leeds last year. The manager's the same. The players he might be lining up alongside in the back line in Pascal Struijk and Ethan Ampadu are the same. So that kind of, counts for a lot. And he's going to play football. So, which, he probably wasn't going to do at Spurs. So it's a really, really good deal. And I think he could really make the difference across the course of the season, compared to looking around for someone similar, trying to find someone who might be ready but might need 15 games to warm up or whatever. Like, you're getting a known entity, and that's normally where things cost loads and loads of money. And in modern football, 10 million is like, I mean, it's a big fee, but it's not.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because obviously it gives us that continuity in the back line, but I mean, a lot of rumours flying around at the moment. I mean, can you tell us anything about Glenn Kamara? Because this obviously seems to be picking up a lot of heat about Glenn Kamara leaving the club for Rennes in France. And for my money, I'd be disappointed to see Kamara go. I thought he was excellent last season. Do we know if that is kind of on the radar here? Is that close, or what's kind of happening with that one?
I don't think he's a player that Leeds are looking to sell, to be honest. No. I mean, like I said before, they're in this position now where anyone that goes will be because either the players asked for it, and Leeds have decided that they don't want people around that don't want to be there, sort of thing, or maybe they feel they can use the money to invest elsewhere, and it's a good deal for them, basically, because they're in a really good place to be able to set the prices here for all the players that they might be interested in. But yeah, that interest is there. But as far as I understand, he's not someone that they're looking to sell, really.
No, absolutely. Because I mean, there's that thing as well. You can't have too many exits, can you? Really, you've got to try and keep that continuity. Now with the Archie sale, then are we kind of Leeds in a position now where they've got more control on that, and they can kind of, you know, I mean, you look at, I think Somerville, there was a PSG link going around
Yes.
Twitter where you think, oh my god, you know, first thing you think of with PSG is like how much, you know, they pay a fortune, but. I mean, has that got any legs, Somerville to PSG, or I think even Liverpool? I think there was a rumour that he'd been having chats with Arne Slot. I saw going around Twitter as well.
Yeah. I mean, he'll obviously know him from Feyenoord, or he might have crossed paths. I need to check that actually. Having said that, he'll definitely know him. But no, I think he's got ambitions definitely to play at that level. As far as I know, it's there's not a discussion there with Leeds. In terms of anything progressing, but basically, just as you said, like the deal with Archie has effectively resolved the PSR issue for this cycle, and so now it's a case of Leeds only selling when they want to sell, and so there's every chance they could just say no to everything and hold on to every single player, but you kind of get to a point where if you see it all the time where if a club keeps coming back and say, okay, well, we can throw this in, or we can throw this in, or we can pay you up front, and all these things, like I would never say that a move would never happen, but yeah. So I think they'll ideally, well, definitely with Kamara and ideally with Somerville, look to hold on to them.
Yeah, which I mean, if you'd have said kind of a few weeks ago, we'll potentially keeping Somerville, it just seems out there. But I guess the Archie sales made that possible. Rutter apparently moved to Brighton. Leeds turned down a bid from Brighton. Is that was that a thing? Do we expect them to kind of come back in for him? I mean, it's a difficult one with Rutter because obviously we signed him for such a large fee, so it's going to take an even bigger fee for it to make be useful for Leeds, really.
Yeah. I mean, as I understand it, that's accurate. Like there was an offer there from Brighton. I think the figure I saw was 30 million, which it's a big amount, but it depends kind of when you pay too much for him whether that's enough. But again, Leeds are in that position where they can reject that. I don't know whether Brighton will come back. Obviously, they signed was it Minte from
Newcastle, I think, wasn't it?
Newcastle, and I think the offer came in on the same day, so they perhaps have that money there to go higher if they want to. But they're quite a savvy club, aren't they? And they do lots of data scouting and everything. So Leeds have said no for now, but
stop trying to sign our players, Brighton. What are you doing? Link every day with Brighton, go away. In terms of other exits, obviously it's just been announced. Jamie Shackleton has officially left the club. I think we all kind of thought that might happen. I think he was offered a deal, wasn't he? I think, but it's not worked out. It's going to be Sheffield United that he's going to. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, another academy product, obviously someone who been there a long time. I think it's like 96 appearances or something, but never was able to nail down a place, always kind of suffered with injuries at bad times. And I guess it kind of makes sense for all parties for him to move on, really.
Yeah, I think you sometimes find this as well. It's easier at the end of a contract than in the middle, but a player's kind of ready for a new challenge, and I guess maybe he looked at where he might be getting guaranteed football, or if he's been having conversations with Sheffield United, and these clubs present big pitches and show you how they're going to make you part of their team, and that will, I imagine that will have been a pretty convincing pitch. But yeah, you kind of seeing a lot of the players that are coming up to the end of their contracts, sort of nailing down one way or another where they're going. And I don't think you can blame any player, for wanting to take a different step and seeing how it goes. Really, like you said, I don't know that he would necessarily have been a massive part of things next season, but obviously Leeds did offer him that contract. So yeah, it's kind of sad to see an academy player move on and stuff, but yeah, could be exciting as long as he doesn't like score against Leeds or anything this season. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Clause inserted
Yeah.
there, not allowed.
Yeah.
Not allowed. Come on, don't do that to us. Just some other ones then. We've got a couple of questions coming in. This one is from John. Any updates on Liam Cooper signing a new deal? I know there's been a few Twitter rumours about him leaving, but do we have anything definitive with Cooper?
Not that I have it yet, not personally. I know obviously his Monday was the day, wasn't it, that it officially expired. Like they were in discussions with Leeds. I think being away at the Euros, and you probably see this with Max Verber as well, like it just makes things a bit trickier, when they're away doing that. I imagine they will get something on this soon because people are back in for pre-season. They want to get stuff nailed down. It would be quite nice, I think, for him to stay on at the club and obviously get his testimonial and all those things that he probably deserves for that longer service. But it could come down to like how much he wants to play and whether he's going to get loads of minutes this season and stuff. But yeah, I think it's a wait and see on that one.
Yeah, it's interesting because Cresswell's not going now. Obviously, that move broke down. What happened then? And was it just kind of a case of just couldn't get over the line, or?
It was all agreed between the clubs, but I think it was just a player decision again. And this is one where, to refer back to, everyone's got to be on board with it. As I understand it, he went and he was there, and then he actually decided, look, I want to stay at Leeds and give it a go. And when that happens, you can't force them to go. So and that's great. What you want, I suppose, is people that are really up for it. And if he's decided, right, I'm going to come back to Leeds and really try and break into the team a bit more or whatever, then yeah, that's a player backing themselves, and that's, I guess, only a good thing. At face value, it looked like quite a good move for him in terms of top division football in France, and you've seen players go abroad and get a good sort of stepping stone move to a bit more regular football. But yeah, so that was just a case of it was there. It was kind of on all go, but he decided to stay. So.
He's featured quite heavily in the Leeds United training videos have been putting on as well. So I'm like, oh, is he kind of he's kind of back in the family almost now? I wonder if it's gonna work out, because obviously he's good talent and England under 21s and everything like that. So yeah, fingers crossed it can work out for Charlie. Another one here. This is from Divine Leeds. What is the likelihood that Firpo stays? 1 year left on his contract. His future could be elsewhere. I mean, any kind of take on him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the type of player that you probably keep around unless unless a big bid comes in. I know that he's not the most loved option for Leeds when he plays, shall we say? But yeah, I think there are various players that Daniel Farke has backed and like made clear that Leeds should keep hold of. Like I think last summer Stroke was one of them. And that paid off up until the injury. And I think, like, for better or worse, Firpo's good cover in that area. I don't know that I would like choose for him to start every week if that was me. But yeah, when you see that kind of 1 year left on the contract thing, in my head as well, it's always like, oh, do you think they'll try and get a bit of a fee for him? But yeah, I think like. It's probably one where if they go up this season and he's still part of the team, like you possibly don't take him up with you to the Premier League. But and that's a natural break point then. So unless there's any sort of like promotion clause and it's always hard to know the specifics of that would mean he would trigger a new deal if Leeds go up or anything. Yeah, it's hard to know on that front. But at the moment, I've not heard that there's anything there for him. So.
Wait and see.
Yeah.
What about the other way, Nancy? Are we signing anyone? Because this is a lot of exit talks. But I mean, is there any kind of movement? I mean, I wonder how it works with the Archie money. Does that mean now, because that PSR deadline has been met, can we now invest kind of that amount of money into the playing squad? I mean, I don't know if it tallies up like that, but I mean, is there any kind of news about anything coming in the club? I mean, there's a few rumours going around, but nothing seems that close at the moment.
No, I think obviously I think when I was on the other week, I said like they were really focused on tidying up and getting their ducks in a row, not just with PSR, but like a few things obviously left over from the old ownership in terms of clauses and contracts, and it's a lot of sort of tidying, but that feels like it's kind of been done, and getting Rodon across the line really helps with that. It has been fairly quiet apart from that. I saw some talk about Daniel Farke likes Troy Parrott, and obviously when we're talking about Spurs and all, it's kind of it's like, oh, is he going to be part of it? Not as well, but like instead of Joe Rodon. But I don't necessarily think that of all the areas Leeds need more cover, kind of that role maybe would be it, unless you see someone go there. And then there were a few other people mentioned to me, but yeah, they've already, one of them signed for somewhere else, so that's gone. But yeah, so genuinely fairly quiet, but I think that the money's there. That's the good thing. I don't think they're going to get daft. I think it's going to be tweaks. But I mean, I don't think they need to sell to fund purchases either. But obviously, if they do, then it means they're not having to sort of put money on the table. You can just kind of shuffle things around.
Yeah, you can just move it around like that. Good stuff. Well, we'll wait and see what happens on that front. I'm sure there's going to be lots going on. I think there's a new kit's being leaked on Twitter and all sorts of stuff at the minute. So plenty to keep us focused. Please do check out Nancy's coverage of Leeds United on The Athletic as well. Give her a follow on Twitter as well. And if you've watched along, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, get it retweeted on Twitter as well. We'll be back, myself and Chris Bell, a little bit later tonight, looking at the Euro quarterfinals. Nancy, England, Switzerland, Saturday. How do you predict this one going?
Pain, and I don't know. It's really hard to be positive, isn't it? I think Switzerland are going to win. I don't see.
I know because they were so bad again, weren't they? They were so bad again, and you just think, how do you turn it around?
I've seen that he's changing the team, changing the shape or whatever, but it doesn't feel right, does it? So yeah, I'm preparing for defeat. We'll see.
Exactly. Lovely. Well, Nancy, thank you so much for joining us again. Look forward to chatting to you again shortly. Like I say, please do give Nancy a follow over at The Athletic as well, and get a like on the video, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.